Hey guys, welcome back to Beach and Fishing. Paul here with you again, and Beach and Fishing is my site and channel aimed at everything to do with the world of fishing, camping, forward driving and general outdoors fun and frivolity. Today we're inside because I tried this one outside on a kayak and nearly tipped a few times, so I've decided to just sit in here and run through it. We're talking about batteries for kayak trolling motors. Trolley motors are little motors that go on the side. I haven't got mine inside, but here's the box here so I can show you that. So that's how kayak there with the trolley motor on the side. That's the one I have. And as you're hopefully aware, I wasn't to start with, I must admit, way back when, is trolley motors need a battery to run. Now, as you're aware, you have a battery in your car, motorbike, boat motor, all those sort of things, and it's pretty much exactly the same setup as what you'd have caravans, obviously. A 12 volt battery will run your kayak, and most of the same stuff fits across the board. So if you're familiar with batteries for cars and charging batteries for cars or motorbikes or caravans or anything like that, you're pretty much running with the same process for a kayak battery. The main types we have, this is the one I have, this is a GMA or a absorbed AGM. I was calling GMAs, AGM absorbed glass mat. It's a fully sealed lead acid battery, the same as you have in cars and motorbikes. The difference being is the old school, the old lead acid ones with all the screws on top. They used to have marbles in them, I think, from memory too. Don't use them in a kayak because they don't like being tipped and they're very heavy. So now we go into the absorbed glass mat, which is probably the only real type of lead acid battery you want for a kayak, because this is sealed, it can fall over. I haven't tried to, but you can drop them in the water and they'll still work as long as you clean the connectors there. And the other type that you've got more commonly these days, which is a lot more expensive but well worth the effort, is your lithium ion batteries, which are exactly the same as the ones you have in a mobile phone. They can be charged up and down as much as you like. These ones obviously need a trickle charger or a smart charger. The lithium ones are a lot stronger for their size. They're smaller, they're lighter, they're more compact, but they're a lot more expensive as well. So if you're looking at batteries, like this one here, the one I've got, costs $80. It's 22 amp hour. I'll go through all that in a second. Very easy, plain, straightforward battery. It will not, however, run big ones. We'll talk about that in a second. Lithium ones for the same size, this was about $300, which I will get eventually. It's just that this one was there when I was getting my motor. I didn't want to wait for lithium one, so I just picked this one and off I go. So what do you need to think about before you purchase, when you're getting a battery for your trolling motor? In most cases, the place you buy it, they'll tell you what you need and what you should get. Things to look at is, my advice would be to find the spec sheet of the trolling motor that you've got. It will give you enough information for what you need. It will tell you whether it can handle what sort of batteries it can handle, whether it can handle a lead acid or handle a lithium. A friend of mine, I haven't seen these myself, but a friend of mine was buying one for his boat, so a much bigger version of the one I've got, and he was telling me that it only runs on lithium batteries. I don't know how true that is personally, but I'm not going to sit here and argue with him, but he was telling me that the spec said it. I think it probably said lithium battery preferred. Doesn't mean it won't run on the others, but again, that's what the specs say. The other things to be aware of is, not so much for a kayak, but some of the bigger trolling motors need 2 batteries, and you won't find this on a kayak size one, but the big ones on boats, some of them have 3. So they're a battery bank. So just make sure it only needs 1 battery, or if it needs a bank, make sure you've got the 2 batteries for it. Now, probably the most important thing, there's a lot more to batteries and charging, and we'll talk about that when I go through my charger video, but a lot of things, and the charger you have may specify which you get as well. I mentioned before that I didn't get a lithium. That's because the charger I've got that I use in our van won't charge lithium batteries, so that I didn't want to get another charger as well. So that could definitely make you choose one or the other depending on what charger you've got for them. So just think about that as well. If you've only got a charger that's for AGM or flood acid or lead acid batteries, then don't get a lithium, because the charger won't charge it or it'll blow it up. So just make sure of that. Now, before I went on that, I was talking about amp hours. This one here is 22 amp hours. Again, massive science behind this, but I've always known it that if I'm attached this to something that runs at 1 amp and I run it constantly for 22 hours, I would constantly in 22 hours, because it's 22 amp hour, this battery will go flat. So check out the ampage that your trolling motor uses. Now the one I've got, I have to look up this on the screen, the one I've got uses 7 to 15 amps. So 7 amp would be on the low setting, on going through straight along, no changes, no variation, just on the low speed. If I change it to high or reverse, it's probably going to spike up to about 15 amps, meaning that if I've got a 22 amp hour battery and I run it on low speed for 3 hours, I can expect after about 3 hours for this to go flat. So 7 amps at 3 hours is 21 amps. This is 22 amp hours. That's pretty much, in a very, very simplistic term, how it works. There is a little bit more to it. I don't understand the real science, or like all the technical science behind it. So that's what I'm sticking with. Comment below if you'd like to clarify that, or you've got a better explanation of what I've just given. So, most people, when they, in the Facebook groups and stuff, when they talk about batteries for a trolling motor, will say, go 100 amp hour. Look, to be honest, the higher the amp hour you can get for the price, probably the better way to go. It's just going to give you longer out on the water. That said, I'm okay with the 22 amp hour for mine, because where I fish with my trolling motor, I bought it so I can go out at any time. Where I fish in an estuary, which is tidal. So what I found is, if the weather was nice and I wanted to go fishing and the tide was coming out, it's a long paddle to get up to the reach where the fishing holes are. So if I've got a motor, I can just motor up against the tide. So if I was at my kayak for 3 hours, I'd probably only use this for about half an hour, if that. I only use the motor for about half an hour of that, because you motor up and then I drift back down on a tide, motor up, drift back down on tide. So 22 amp hour would work fine for me. So, and the other thing to then be aware of is that's with your motor. So make sure that it's compatible with your motor, make sure it's compatible with your charger, and then make sure that the amperage is high enough for A, to handle the motor, and B, for the length of time you want to be out in the water. Now the third thing to be aware of here is the size. Now this one, as you can see, is quite small. It's about, I measured it yesterday, it's about, I think that's about 7 inches by 5 inches by 1 inch, or 1.5 inches, or maybe 2. I work in centimeters, so I'm grasping at straws here. It was 118 centimeters, about 4 or 5 centimeters, and then 15 centimeters high. So that's where I pulled that from. Nice and small. It actually fits in a little back cavity of my kayak. A lot of you will use, very common to have a crate with some rod holes and stuff attached to the kayak. This will fit down the side of anything I have in the back there, and sits in quite neatly. I haven't got this, I don't have a bracket for it or anything like that. I probably should get a bracket, because if this one can fall over, it'll be fine. Lithiums can fall over, they'll be fine. But you don't want it rattling all around the place and going anywhere, but this one's small enough. If you go a bigger option, you need to have a kayak big enough. So if you're on a small kayak with a small trolling motor, a big battery is just going to weigh you down, because the weight in the kayak will affect the amps that it uses as well. Because if it needs to push harder to push you along, it's going to use more amps, reduce the battery life, so on and so forth. So make sure the battery size fits in with what it is you're trying to do as well. And you know what? That's about it as far as your as what you want to use a battery for. A battery is a battery. It's running your kayak. Make sure it's fully charged before you get in the vessel. So I put mine on the charger the night before. By the time I get up the next morning, it's completely charged. If you're going to do that, make sure you've got a smart charger or a trickle charger. Don't use just a blast charger. I don't know what the real name for them is, but the old school chargers you turn on, it just charges and charges and charges. That will damage the battery in time. Smart chargers, trickle chargers tend to be a bit more gentle, because they'll stop charging once it's full. So that's it. So let's have a look at the 3 options that I've come up with that you can possibly look at if you're interested in a battery. Again, the variation here will be on what it is you're looking, what it is you need. But the first one here I've got is a 12 volt 35 amp hour. This is almost identical to the one I've got, as in it's nice and small, 7x5x7. It's only 20 pounds in weight, 35 amp hours. So if you're running at 7 amps, that'll give you up to 5 hours. Vibration resistant, wide range temperature, long service life. It says it's the largest size. I might have to fix that because that's actually small. 35 amp hours, quite low, obviously, and harness and mounts not included. So you will need to, if you want to mount that in, you'll need to mount that. But I've chosen this because it's a good size, very handy for your for smaller craft, and will do everything you do. That is definitely wrong. I'm going to remove that. So by the time you're watching the video, that won't be there. Yeah, so a good option, cheap option too, cost effective, not cheap. And good reviews. So this one's well worth the effort. Okay, this one here is starting to get into a 12, 6 and 9 inches, so slightly bigger. A GMA battery, so it's fully sealed, can fall over, etc, etc. 100 amp hour. So if you're using the Minn Kota range, which can be quite heavy on the amp usage, very, very good motors, but very heavy on the amp usage. As I say, so it's 60 pounds for the weight, whereas this one up here was only 20. But it is 100 amp hours, so it'll get you a long way on any kayak trolling motor. Again, shock and vibration resistance, can be mounted in any position, as in it can lie on its side, all that sort of stuff, and long service life. Bit big and heavy, longer charging time, and none of them have harness and mounts, but this one, being 100 amp hour, will charge a lot longer, but it's a very good, if you're going for the GMA, this one you could do a lot worse than that, especially if you're running the Minn Kotas. And third one is our 100 amp hour lithium battery. So as you can see, higher price, lower weight, slightly smaller size. But if you're on the if you want the lithium ion side of batteries, very, very good option here. As I say, 100 amp hour, so I give you plenty of run. You can charge it up and down, up and down, up and down, like you can a mobile phone. They do recommend that you let them drop to 0 every now and then, however. But apart from that, well worth the effort if you're looking for a good lithium-ion battery. And that's it, guys. That's my 3 trolling motor batteries to have a look at. The first one, nice and small and compact like this. Second one, a little bit bigger, but has the 100 amp hours and is probably one of the lightest I could see around that size, and will run, if you're running a bigger kayak, like a 13 or 14, a 10 to 13 foot with stuff on there, and you've got a slightly bigger end motor, then that second battery will serve you well. And a third option for those of you looking for a lithium ion, good quality battery, gives you all the advantages of lithium and will run for a long, long time. That's it, guys. Hope that was helpful. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to my channel below. If you're watching within the post and you have any questions to do with batteries, getting yourself set up with a kayak trolling motor, anything along those lines, if you've got any clarification, anything I've got wrong with my amp hours and the like, or any experience with any batteries that you use, comment below. Would love to hear from you. Love to have a chat. Okay, guys, thanks for that. Chat to you soon. Bye.